Okay, I got a video, and it's what if Dragon's Devil Fruit, or basically what if Dragon is, top two, top three in the verse. We're gonna exclude Emu because Emu's not a anime. Um, uh, like he hasn't shown any feats in the anime yet. Now we know about the manga. You're looking at the date of this video, and you see in your manga reader, you're like, well, Emu's this and that, and I know about Emu too. But this video is about Dragon. He's the like if the Monkey D family was a sandwich, we got Dragon in the middle of that sandwich. And I'll tell you right now, that sandwich it's like that. It's the kind of shit that'll like knock you off your ass, kind of shit, right? So, and then some. So, Dragon is the leader of the Revolutionary Army. And see, I don't want to say too much about, the manga because I did read that part, with Dragon, you know, uh, he had a hand. We'll just say this: Dragon he was in the Marines, and then he went on and did his own thing. So like, this is like, oh well, yeah, he did that, but it was not easy. When you're basically, you were in the Marines, but then you betrayed them, what have you, you got away. You got people hunting your dick. So basically, you gotta, move in silence, At the same time, you know, at first, because he was young when he got out, or he, left the Marines. He was like 18, 17 years old. So he was still, growing up himself, right? He had to lay low, train. When you like watch the anime and manga too, you see his face, right? During Ohara incident, he has no markings on his face. I believe that the markings came from the devil fruit, not because he was like, oh, I'm a revolutionary now and I want to get a tattoo on my face. I believe it came from his devil fruit. It's like one of the um, uh, distinguishing, like, physical characteristics that he ate this specific devil fruit. When it comes to, his intelligence, right? I'm telling you, he's smarter than Garp and Luffy. He really had to think things through to survive himself first. Then, eventually, he gathered Ivankov. He knew Ivankov was about that, um, going against, the world government and, all that. He kind of, his past is, the way it is, right? He was a slave and other things too. So he's like, he has my support, you know. Kuma eventually joined too. And that's when they created the Revolutionary Army. And that happened after the O'Hara incident. So somewhere between the time, he created the Revolutionary Army with Ivankov and Kuma and, O'Hara, he ate his devil fruit. So he was like, because Dragon's like 50, right? I believe he's like 50 something. And that happened, the O'Hara incident happened 22 years ago. He was in his, 20s, right? This guy ate his devil fruit at some point in that, period of time. Because, like, I'm going based off of what I said, right? I believe, this guy's tattoos come from his devil fruit. And even if he's not transformed or whatever, he still has those marks as a sign that he's eaten this specific devil fruit. Now, the juice and meat of this, video, what you want to know about, what I think about what his devil fruits are, or what possible devil fruit does this guy have. So it could be a number of devil fruits, right? The one I think it could be, if it's a logia type, it's just the wind fruit. He ate the, wind logia type devil fruit. Now he's basically a wind man. He can control wind almost like airbender, but he can do more than just that. He can fly and other stuff. But then it's like, I don't like that idea, because if it's just wind, how is he causing storms and shit? Because like we know that his devil fruit has something to do with the weather a little bit too. Because when Luffy was at Logtown, like when they were at Logtown, it was not a rainy day per se when they first got there. It became that way. It developed into, that kind of day. He causes that with his devil fruit. Weather, not just the wind, it's like the rain, the clouds, the lightning, he had something to, do with that. Um, but that being said, there's people in the community who believe in the Amaru. This is like a feathered serpent creature, right? In Andes, Mesoamerican, Incan lore, right? This creature, you know, could, do that. It rolls over like the heavens. It could shoot lightning. It could probably, do shit like that, right? Weather effects, that kind of thing. So he might have that kind of devil fruit. But for me, I'm like, if he had that devil fruit, he didn't look that way when he was fighting against Smoker, right? He didn't look like an animal, or half, mythical beast when he grabbed Smoker's, you know, uh, weapon. But maybe his devil fruit works differently, or at that time Oda didn't know, you know. He just knew that he wanted Dragon to be there for Luffy at that time. He didn't have any, you know, idea about his devil fruit. But I think, yeah, but I think, he, I don't, it could be this one though. It could be that. It could be the Amaru, the, feathered serpent, creature. But what I was thinking is it could be the Susanoo devil fruit. I'm saving that one for last. There's another one that I'm thinking of, and everybody else is, like it has to be, you know. But he throws, curveballs sometimes, and if he don't, then it's been told or whatever. But Susanoo he's also known as the god of storms, right? In Japanese mythology, he could have that devil fruit. I wouldn't be surprised personally if it ends up being that. That's a mythical god. You know, he could even have the Fujin devil fruit. But another spoiler, Zaza is a thing, right? Zaza is a god that is feared by the celestial dragons, told in, stories and shit, to like, make kids, fearful of this god that pours down rain and, floods places, right? And I'm like, yeah, this could definitely be it for Dragon, But I'm not gonna just, say that shit just because everybody else is, right? It's obviously the rain god devil fruit. Current manga things going on. I'm just like Zaza. This devil fruit could be. It's still possible. I didn't say it was highly unlikely. I just don't think so. I think it's gonna be one of those things where you think it is, and then it's not, and then it's just some other thing. And it's crazy to say that when we're like this close to the end or whatever, but that's what I believe. Um, he has those powers too. So like I get where people are coming from. He actually like when he saved Luffy that day, it was raining, out of nowhere. And that would explain that completely, you know. But then the wind, this guy, I see him every time. Like every time I see him in the anime, he's always like it's like he's flying or using wind to control his descent. So it's like rain implies mostly water, you know, pouring down, not wind. But, you know, we don't know. But we do know this. He has one of those devil fruits that I mentioned, one of those four devil fruits. And then this guy also, by the way, he has haki. Believe that shit. He has to have, like, he has to have at least observation haki and armament haki. Because, like, and this is what you know about Dragon 2. This little move right here, this little fucking dragon claw thing that Sabo uses, yeah, that's Dragon's move. The dragon was like, "Here, son, come here so I can teach you how to, break blades with your fingers like this using armament hockey." Boom. And like he's doing that shit like there's nobody else who does shit like that. That's his technique. Garp's not doing that shit. Luffy's not fucking doing that shit. Like nobody else in the fucking world is doing that shit. That's his, niche, right? So we know he has his armament hockey, to some degree, right? His observation hockey's probably there too. Conquer's hockey, if Luffy has it and Garp has it, why wouldn't he have it? Like, let's not sleep on Dragon. And I'm saying this because people like to, bring up Mihawk a lot. Mihawk this, Mihawk that, against Shanks. He could beat Shanks now because he has one arm. But I'm like, Mihawk's great at swordsmanship, but he's not great at, hockey. He's better than other people, like aren't like top tier conquerors, but somebody like Shanks, that makes a difference in a fight. That's the type of shit that throws somebody like him off his game. You know, even in the slightest, it happens, right? Dragon, I'm telling you right now, he's stronger than Mihawk. You know, he's on Shanks's level. You know, I'm just telling y'all right now, you guys gotta know. Those are the like people talk about stocks and shit, right? For One Piece. This guy's stock's gotta be like one of the higher ones right now. I'm putting that shit over Mihawk. Like Mihawk, I'm not sold on that shit like everybody else. I know he's powerful and I know he's gonna give Zoro a good fight, but at the end of the day, the guy you gotta like put your stocks in is Monkey D. Dragon. That he's gonna be, somebody. And basically, if he dies or loses, it's gonna be to like Emu. And Emu's the one who's, he's number one in the verse. He, he's a tough customer. Rocks couldn't, do shit to him. And Rocks was, he was pretty damn, he's top 10 probably all the time. You know, and that's a manga spoiler too. But just know this, if you're watching this video, he has one of the four fruits I mentioned, the wind fruit, the Amaru mythical zone devil fruit. He has either one of those two, or he has the Susanoo devil fruit, or he has just the Zaza devil fruit as it was, brought up in the manga. currently, you know, and that all, those are the four possible devil fruits I think he has. And then he definitely, if you ask me, and I'm saying it now, he has the Conqueror's haki, observation haki, all on the same, about the same level as, Garp and Luffy, if not better than them. It would just make sense, if this guy, he basically started from nothing. Like, he didn't have, like, after he was, like, freed by Garp, like, he didn't have nothing. Like, he couldn't go to his dad for anything for real. Like, he couldn't do that shit no more. You know, he's working with the people that are hunting his dick, so he's like, he can't do that. You know, he has no real allies and shit. It took a long time for him to even, get that, where he's at now. And he's basically the most wanted man in One Piece. Bounty numbers, fuck, man. I'm saying his bounty's probably like 6 billion, if I had to guess, personally. But let me know what you think about Dragon in the comments, and, be cool on the corner, y'all. And also, let me know what you think. Is it just, you think it's just the Zaza Devil Fruit because, the manga and, everybody just, is going to say that's what it is. And it's pointing towards that, but it's, also could not be pointing towards that, you know. And let me know what you think. If it's, you think he, has another devil fruit that I haven't mentioned in this video, in the comments. Be cool on the corner.